Okay. All right, looks like we're live now. So hello, everybody, and welcome to Life After PBA. PBA is the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. Today we have Serge. He's a graduate of the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. My name is William. I'm the host. And yeah, we've got a great show for you today. So why don't we start off first, and I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Sergey, also like mainly known as Sego in the ecosystem. But so I started off by like my first introduction to Polkadot was like I explored it about 3 years ago. It seemed different than other blockchain projects. I was at the time mainly playing around with some EVM things on Ethereum, but the vision of Polkadot seemed very interesting. The multi-chain future seemed like a realistic thing that would happen, and I think this is like kind of proven with other ecosystems kind of migrating into this approach. So it seemed interesting, and I also had some Rust knowledge, so I started off with contributing to the Substrate repository. So I started off by contributing to Polkadot in this way, and yeah, just working on it like kind of part time as a contributor. I was also invited to the Polkadot Blockchain Academy, to the third cohort, which was in Berkeley. It was a really interesting experience to meet like people working on Polkadot in real life, and it was just overall an interesting experience. Around this time, like this agile core time concept was introduced. So, and this was during the time I was at the academy in Berkeley. So it was also interesting to explore it at that moment, and this is when I first started like looking into agile core time, like these secondary marketplaces that could be built. So this is when the RegionX project started, and since then this is mainly what I have been working on, like building working on a core time interface, also RegionX like a secondary core time marketplace. So this has been my main focus for more than a year now. Uh,
And
to- yeah.
tell me a little bit about how the genesis of the idea happened. Right. I guess you mentioned that core time, you were learning about it. It was just coming into place. But was it at the academy when it really sparked in your head that, this is something that was needed and nobody else was working on? Or was it afterwards?
Yeah, so it was actually something that I was reading through the RFCs, and the idea of secondary marketplaces was mentioned in the RFCs because Agile Core Time kind of introduces this new model that allows this interface for like splitting core time, like partition and interlace it, but it does not out of the box provide a way to resell it, trade it, and like the concept of secondary marketplaces was mentioned in the RFCs, not really in a defined way, but it was mentioned as an idea, and it seemed like something interesting. And at the time, uh, like no one was really working on this, so I started exploring this idea, researching about it more. So this is how it all started, because it like seemed something that would be definitely needed in the future with agile core time, and I decided to go deeper into it. So that's really how it started.
So yeah, I think for everybody in the Polkadot ecosystem, we probably have a really good understanding of what Region X is and what the general use is. But for those listeners who are coming from outside the ecosystem or maybe coming from other blockchains, could you give a quick overview of what Region X is, I guess, today, what the main focus is, and how somebody might use it?
Yeah, so we have so far built a couple of things. One of them is a interface for interacting with like the system chain, the core time chain, which allows purchasing core time from the bulk sale and assigning it to parachain and renewing it. So this is kind of a user interface for interacting with this new agile core time system for uh, purchasing core time and assigning it to parachains. So it's kind of like this management UI that we have built so far.
I
And
guess maybe from a larger perspective, right? It's kind of the shift from the parachain model, which everybody kind of knows as Polkadot 1.0, where in order to launch your chain, you need to have a crowd loan, and that crowd loan gives you the ability to launch your own blockchain on Polkadot for a while. And core time, as you're mentioning it now, is really the ability to buy block space or launch your parachain and get the resources on demand. So you might buy it monthly, right? Or,
yeah, yeah,
instantaneously.
yeah. So essentially, it is a like an entirely new model for deployment on Polkadot. Like with the previous model, projects needed to participate in this like auction model where they would kind of compete who would get the slot. And this new model is actually much more accessible and I would say like simpler to use and understand. It's basically every month there is a bulk sale where a couple of like cores are sold, and anyone who wants to like deploy a project on Polkadot or has an existing project can purchase a core and assign it to their project, and that's all that's needed for deployment. And it's really much more accessible, and I would say it really shows much better how much resources Polkadot actually offers, because we can see the core time price is actually pretty low. And I would say this is a great thing because it just shows that Polkadot is able to host much more projects than it is hosting now. So there is kind of an abundance of core time now. And I think this is a great selling point for Polkadot because we have this really cheap core time, and with this I do believe that Polkadot could essentially become kind of like the like one of the go-to places for hosting rollups. It has like much cheaper core time, like block space than Ethereum. It also has a very nice framework for building blockchains. This is the Polkadot SDK substrate. Um, like so with all of this combined, it's really worth considering deploying projects on Polkadot because the development with Substrate is much easier. Like the framework is just more developed than maybe things that other ecosystems have. And this is also proven with, let's say, Cardano also deciding to utilize Polkadot SDK to some extent. So it's really great that we have that. And with the low block space prices, it's really a good place for deploying projects now.
Yeah, I think one of the things to emphasize is really because of Polkadot's unique sharded architecture, then any blockchain launching on Polkadot, and again, as you mentioned, to actually run your chain because core time is inexpensive right now, it doesn't cost that much, but you get full access to the economic security of Polkadot. And so this can
Yeah,
be quite a big value to any chain that wants to launch and then I guess not have to build up that economic security themselves.
exactly. It can get secured by Polkadot for a, I would say, really like a really low price. And also another thing that has not been available so far is bridging technologies, which allow projects to like communicate with Ethereum or other ecosystems. I'm referring here to Snowbridge and Hyperbridge. So this is something that has not been available so far. But with this available, I do believe that projects will now really choose to deploy on ecosystems which have like the lowest cost and the best developer experience. And I believe that Polkadot right now is this ecosystem. So I see a great potential for maybe new projects or existing smart contract projects that want to transition to a roll-up, like for example, Uniswap has done with Unichain, and I think this is going to happen much more. And this is where Polkadot can be considered as a deployment option now because of the bridging technologies, great developer experience, and really cheap core time. It should be a really sensible option for deployment right now.
Yeah, I'd love to come circle back to the idea of what might bring other chains to come deploy on Polkadot, maybe a little bit later. But I'd love to hear a little bit more now about RegionX, right? So I guess this core time is something that's built into the protocol, but it's actually a little bit I guess, difficult to use, or you need some ease of use that RegionX provides?
Yeah, so we kind of try to provide this easy to use interface for projects that want to deploy on Polkadot. So this is why we have built also the UI in the first place. And it is just important, like, to, I think, educate other teams and ecosystems, like, about this new model, about the new possibilities that are available now, and that core time is really accessible now. And um, so that's kind of division that we also have with RegionX, is to promote this and also help some projects from other ecosystems that might be considering Polkadot, to help them in this onboarding process, maybe the development process. So this is something that we as the RegionX team also plan to offer in the future, because we believe that many existing projects or new projects would actually benefit a lot from deploying on Polkadot, for the reasons I already mentioned.
Yeah, and so I think what might be interesting to discuss a little bit, given we're focused on the PBA here, is your journey coming out of the PBA, right? So going into the PBA, you were an engineer, you had Rust experience. At the PBA, that's where you really got to dive into blockchain and substrate and what Polkadot has to offer, and you realize this opportunity with core time and the need to help people use it, trade it, consume it. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey from, I guess, from an engineer coming into the PBA to becoming an entrepreneur and starting a project, starting a company? Tell me a little bit about how the decision went, about maybe some of the challenges along the way, because this is not a common path.
Yeah, sure. Like, first of all, I think PBA gave a really good, like, understanding, because it did not only focus on Polkadot, but rather it focused on some of the essential stuff, uh, like economics and cryptography, and all the important stuff that's, like, uh, behind all of the, like, exciting stuff, the Polkadot and the other projects. So I think it's really great that there is this approach of going through all of this, like, having not only been focused on Polkadot, but, like, seeing the broader picture. So I think that's an important thing that the PBA provides. And also there is the other part of it, which is meeting all the people that are working on Polkadot, uh, like, just being there for more than a month. And it's really an interesting experience, I would say, to really be there with people who are working, thinking, and building on this technology. So it's really an interesting experience that I mean, I recommend anyone who is interested in this technology to really, if they have not been to the academy, to maybe go there and see just how, like, get the deeper picture and meet all the people who are building on this technology and have been working on it
Yeah,
for
the
years. Yeah.
I guess many of the instructors there are core developers from the
Yeah.
protocol themselves. So
Yeah.
were
And
they able to help you, I guess, sound out your idea and give you guidance on how to pursue it?
yeah, it was definitely great to have people who have built this technology, built Polkadot, be there. So yeah, for sure. And I would say, like, coming back to one of your questions, like, what are some challenges? I think I have the feeling like one of the main challenges is building really a team, and this is why I believe bringing many people into the ecosystem is important, to have as much developers, engineers, and people in the ecosystems to be able to build things and form teams and projects. So I think this is one of the more, like, the challenging things, is to actually find a team, find people who would be open to working with you on an idea. And this is why I think having as many new projects, as many new people in the ecosystem is the way to go.
Yeah, I guess when you talk about bringing, other people onto your idea, you have to start to think about how do you fund the project, right? How do you make it financially sustainable? So can you talk a little bit about, I guess, coming out of the PBA, how did you get your first funding for this idea, and how did you find your first team members?
Yeah, so I initially got a Web3 Foundation grant. This was for like developing the first version of the user interface, and we also did work on kind of a prototype of a secondary marketplace, initially in a form of smart contracts. And this is where we did a lot of research that we ended up using later. But yeah, that is how we started. I started working with Oliver. I worked with him on a project before, so I already knew him. And afterward, we applied for a treasury funding because the project is kind of common good. It's really something that with agile core time is needed, because without a secondary marketplace and without kind of what we have been working on, there are really not that many benefits with this new model compared to the old one. So it's kind of a common good thing. So treasury funding, I think, was the appropriate thing to do. So I think it's nice to have the treasury available for projects that are building something for the ecosystem, something that is common good. And I think Web3 Foundation is also uh, good for supporting some early ideas and concepts that could evolve into something bigger.
Yeah, so that's great to hear that the ecosystem really supported your path coming out, right? I guess the Web3 Foundation, the type of grant that you're talking about is really for technical,
Yeah.
technical developments, and of course, something building on core time is there. And then the treasury is available for really almost any idea, and that's voted on by the DAO. Can you tell me a little bit about the treasury process? Like, was it difficult? Was it scary? Was it easy to kind of present your idea to, I guess, everybody and move
Yeah.
it through the treasury process?
Yeah, it's, I mean, definitely a different experience than when applying from a grant. But I would say it worked out okay. And I mean, it's interesting to have many people seeing the proposal, commenting on it, kind of having maybe this, maybe not ideal, but like this discussion through comments under the proposal. I mean, it's definitely a different experience than, for example, applying for a grant. It's kind of more chaotic, I would say. Many people are looking at it. Maybe someone is maybe misreading some of the things. But overall, I think it's an interesting process. It's definitely decentralized, and this kind of comes with it. Uh, but yeah, I think it's an interesting experience, and I think it's good to have it as a funding option in the ecosystem.
And so looking forward, I understand that you are intending to launch a parachain or a chain to I guess power the operations. Can you tell me a little bit about what the chain will do and you
Yeah.
know
So we have developed this secondary marketplace and like this crowdfunding model kind of for core time. It is working, and we had it live on a testnet. We plan to have it on Kusama and Polkadot, but we are kind of now in a funding phase, so like defining some of the details. So it is taking a bit of time, but for Kusama, I think we should be able to have it relatively soon. And for Polkadot, we want to get an audit, so it's gonna be, and also see how it works on Kusama, so it's gonna be a bit later. But that's kind of the idea, to have it on Kusama first without an audit, see how it works. And also the core time prices on Kusama are pretty low, so it's gonna be interesting to see whether people are gonna try to purchase all of it and resell it for profit, or just see what's gonna happen, and kind of based on that also assume something like that can happen on Polkadot. So I think it's also going to be an interesting experiment to see how people are going to use this system. once it's available.
And for the next phase of funding your project, how do you look at that? Are you planning to grow the team? Are you planning to, you know, I guess, do any marketing, or is it really just development that is the main focus from now?
Yeah, so there are kind of two parts of it. One of it is like this core time procurement, like the interface. Um, I would say this is something that's not really for, I would say, commercial use. This is something that projects need specifically. So it's not it does not really need, I would say, broad marketing. What I believe needs kind of broad marketing is just explaining that Polkadot provides core time at a low price. Also, it's a good option for deployment. So for that, I think it's going to be really like focused on talking to existing parachain projects or new parachain projects, and just getting feedback, helping them in this, like operating in this new model. And the other thing with we also plan on working on like onboarding projects from other ecosystems, and we just want to get the word out and just for people from other ecosystems to be aware that Polkadot could be a good option for deployment and all the benefit it provides. And uh, we want to be the team that could be there for like technical help and development services. So
So you want to support, I guess, new people coming in, learning about what the benefits are, how to deploy, I guess, how to consume core time, and of course, how to use
I
RegionX.
yeah, I would say our main goal would be to onboard more projects. So like teams from other ecosystems, projects from other ecosystems, like maybe some existing smart contract projects on Ethereum that could actually benefit from deploying as a roll-up, and maybe they have not considered deploying on Polkadot, but it could actually be a very good option because core time is very cheap and development is also easier thanks to things like Polkadot SDK. And thanks to the bridging technologies, it really should not matter if it is a Polkadot parachain or an Ethereum rollup.
Yeah, so I guess if you had to talk to somebody from unit chain or something, or another chain that's an L2, what would you really say to them to really convince them that, hey, you should take a look at deploying on Polkadot?
Yeah, so just explain the benefits. Like Polkadot SDK substrate, I think it has been battle tested. It has been there and it has been developed. So the development should be easier, therefore also likely cheaper. Um, the like just migrating to a rollup, there are multiple benefits, like just having lower transaction fees for users, being able to support much more transactions. And I think it's also been great to see Polkadot being tested to prove that it can actually handle a lot of transactions per second, like with the latest experiment that has been done on Polkadot and Kusama. I think that's also a really good selling point. So just explaining all of the things that Polkadot is able to support and what are
Yeah, that was the recent spamming with
yes,
over 120,000
yes,
transactions, right?
yes. And I think it's great that we have done that, and it just shows that Polkadot is actually able to support that kind of throughput, and this is like I think a major selling point. And to be able to get a core for such a low price, and also with uh, like simpler development experience, better development experience, I think these are very good points to reasons to consider deploying on Polkadot.
That's good. So, yeah, I wanted to ask, you know, you've taken this journey, right, that we've talked a little bit about, coming from the PBA, building your own project team, biting off a very important part of, what's needed for Polkadot to be successful, and taking that on. Is there any advice that you would have for other developers that are looking to either start their own project, start their own company, try to contribute something to the ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. Like first of all, I mean, try to find some like a actual problem in the ecosystem, something that should be solved. Have some discussions about it on the forum or some other places. Get some feedback about it. Also, like finding a team. That's something that's very important. And I think PBA, going to the PBA, can actually help in this because you meet a lot of developers who might who were maybe not working on a project at that time, but would be open to working with you on something. So I think just trying to solve an actual problem in the ecosystem or and finding a good team that you could work with, those are, I think, the main two things that I would recommend.
Well, we're getting close to our end. I wanted to give you a chance to give any closing remarks or announcements that you wanted to make, or reiterate any message that you have for the audience today.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's definitely, yeah, I think another thing that I might want to touch upon is Plaza, and I think it's also great to have this as essentially a new deployment option on Polkadot. And I think we are going to see more projects maybe coming in as smart contracts, first deploying on Plaza, and again, once they get a lot of activity, a lot of users, I think it's really good to have it now as a new option, as a step in the development process. So, because not all projects really need to start off as a roll-up. And I think it's great that Polkas is going to offer this new deployment option now. And I think it's also going to lead to Polkadot having more roll-ups in the end, because the more successful projects, the ones that really need more throughput or for some other reasons, are going to end up migrating to their own parachain. And I think it's great that that's also something that's going to be added on Polkadot.
And for everybody out there, I guess Plaza is really referring to the addition of smart contracts to Asset Hub, and
Yes.
so there will be the opportunity to write contracts in Solidity or Rust, have them interoperate, and deploy to a common environment, which is going to be treated as, I guess, the main environment for users, for staking, for governance, all to come together on Polkadot, and that's a very exciting thing for next year.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much. I have one note here at the end. Of course, next year is also going to be the next class for the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. And so this is going to be a 2.5 week in-person program. So similar to the program that Zago and I went to, and we kind of got together with 50 to 100 other developers and founders, and kind of built bonds, learned about Polkadot. So that's happening again next year. The applications are open now. So the place to go find out more about that and to apply is polkadot.academy. And so you can read about the program, you can fill out the application form. There's links to videos if you want to see things about past classes. Even some of the past instructional materials are online. But we very much encourage you to check that out. The time is now to get yourself ready. And that will be a very exciting experience for the beginning of next year. Anyways, thank you all. Thank you, Sergey. And thank you to all the listeners today. And we will see you